Hey fellow music fans, welcome back to Psychology of Rock. If you're new to the channel, my name's Nina, and today's video is a little bit different than my other videos because instead of offering my opinion or an analysis on a topic, this time I am looking for help answering a very sincere question. Now, a few months ago, I put out a video called Female Japanese Rock and Metal Bands, the Psychology Behind the Fandom, in which I talked about the incredible appeal behind these bands, the demographics of their fan base, and all the reasons why I think they are more than deserving of all the attention they are getting. Their almost unparalleled musicianship, their incredible stage presence, their devotion and commitment to their fans, their adorable personalities, and of course, their undeniable visual appeal. Now, although there are certainly outliers such as myself, I don't think that anyone would argue that the majority of the fan base consists mainly of males, which is a point that I definitely brought up and discussed in the video, which, by the way, I will link in the description box just in case you missed it. But in my commentary, I shared that I didn't really feel that this was due to purely superficial reasons or sex appeal, as much as it had to do with their exceptional talent all around and what these bands had to offer as a full package. And this was something that almost everyone agreed with in the comments, which I thoroughly enjoyed reading. Many people actually asserted that their dedication to these bands had nothing to do with gender, or they said that while they liked the fact that these bands were female, that it really was the music that came first. Other people commented that it was more about them simply enjoying supporting talented female artists and just an advocacy for women in music in general than merely finding these bands visually appealing. Overall, it seemed like most of the fan base wanted to distance themselves from the idea that the appeal had much, if anything, to do with gender at all, even though it seems like the artists themselves seem to celebrate the fact that they are female, which I personally think is fantastic, because I do see it as a selling point in some way. And while I had assumed that most everyone would agree with this, I saw over and over in the comments that these bands being all female was not the number one draw for most people. Even though I do think that image has been a huge factor in the entertainment business since the beginning, and that there really is no shame in finding appeal in a band's aesthetic or visual presentation. I think it's part of the show and part of the art that they are putting out there. But here's my question, and it's really not my question because it actually came from a comment, or actually several comments in response to my last video, which claimed that while what I was saying was not necessarily wrong, that they believed that if these same artists were male instead of female, that they would not have nearly the same level of success or popularity, and that I was basically just kind of sugarcoating the main reason for the fascination, regardless of their talent. Their viewpoint was that the excitement and fandom for equally talented all-male Japanese rock and metal bands is not nearly as widespread or as intense as it is for these all-female bands. So my question to you is, or the first of my questions here really, do you think that there is any credibility to this argument? Do you think that if these bands were male, you would be as excited about them as a fan? And before you answer that, I want to preface the question with a caveat that I don't think that an answer of no to that question, if that ends up being your answer, is necessarily sexist in any way. Even as a heterosexual female myself, I have to admit that there is something really powerful about these bands being all female that sets them apart. And that being said, is there really any harm in us noticing and appreciating that they are all female if we aren't objectifying them? Especially if it's something that at least some of them seem to be highlighting in their marketing. I've always just kind of been drawn to female musicians and instinctively want to support them, especially knowing that it's often a really uphill battle for them. Even when they are successful, there are always people that accuse them of only being famous because of their looks and not their talent, no matter how impressive their actual musicianship is. And when we're talking about these female Japanese rock and metal groups, there is no denying their musicianship, yet we clearly still see this accusation. I mean, it almost seems to me like some people suggest that we shouldn't even notice or pay attention to an artist's gender identity at all, which to me doesn't seem realistic because it directly ties into who they are fundamentally as people, no matter how they identify. And while I do appreciate the sentiment of focusing solely on the music, many of the reasons why people are drawn to artists to begin with extend well beyond the songs they write and the content they create. It can have a lot to do with their personality and their perspective. Because of this, I don't really think that celebrating a female artist's femininity or the unique viewpoint that they can bring into their music diminishes their talent in any way. In fact, I personally believe it can empower them and inspire others, men and women. To me, it's more about recognizing and admiring the full spectrum of their identity, including their gender, while appreciating their contributions to the world of music, which again, in these cases, are just immense. So that brings me to my next question. Do you think that gender could actually be playing a part in this equation, but in more ways than just people being drawn to them physically? To me, the answer is a clear yes, but I would love to hear your thoughts. I also tend to think that two things can be true at the same time. These bands are exceedingly talented and dynamic, and their music speaks for itself, but it's also undeniable, in my opinion, that their gender has enhanced their appeal and helped them to create a unique connection with their audience that plays on that, at least to some degree. Like I said, as a female musician myself, I love supporting other women in music, especially after so many years of males completely dominating the music scene. And I think they're bringing a new kind of energy to the scene, not only in Japan, but around the globe. And it is definitely more than just a novelty factor. There is something genuinely special about them that is difficult to pinpoint. So my next question is, what do you think that is? If in fact it's true that the fans wouldn't be as excited about these bands if they were male, even though the music itself would be the same, then what is the elusive quality that these artists possess that has spawned so much adoration and led to this dedicated and diehard fan base? I'm also curious, by the way, because I really have not been exposed to many of the all-male Japanese rock and metal artists, if their own fan bases are this dedicated and what the demographics of these fan bases look like. Are they still largely male, or do these bands tend to have more female fans? This is something that I could not find a lot of reliable information about, so if you are in the know, please educate me because I am genuinely interested. And by the way, I just want to thank you all for sharing your honest thoughts and opinions because they really do spark some truly worthwhile discussions, even when they go against the grain of what everyone else is saying. So I truly look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about all this, and if you think that there is any merit to any of these statements, or if you think that there is something just kind of special about these all-female bands that truly transcends gender. Remember, there are no wrong answers. There's just different perspectives. And in the end, all of these perspectives have led us to discover some pretty incredible artists. And before I close this video, I would love to hear what your current favorite bands are, and if there are any new Japanese artists or bands that you did not see represented here that you think I should check out, definitely let me know. I am always looking for new music. I want to thank you so much for going down this rabbit hole with me today and for having an open conversation. I look forward to hearing your thoughts, and I will see you in the next video.